Good morning, guys. I hope this video finds you doing well. I miss seeing your smiling faces in the classroom. I know this virtual learning has been something new. I'm glad we've made it this far. Only a few more weeks, so give yourself a pat on the back. Um, and then you'll have a little bit of lull time where you won't have to worry about virtual learning. So today in science, guys, we are going to be talking about symbiosis. So what is symbiosis? Um, so let's start. Our goal for today is to figure out what is symbiosis, what are the different kinds of symbiosis, and then give some examples of symbiosis. So symbiosis, guys, pretty easy. It's just the act of living together. So when two organisms live together, it could be temporary or for a long time, and at least one organism benefits from the relationship. So, what do we mean by benefit? So, let's give an example of you right now let's give an example of me and my dog, although I'm sure we could think of some examples of you right now at home. So, a symbiotic relationship for me and my dog would probably be me being home, virtual teaching, and her being able to lay on my lap and get scratches, right? She's benefiting from our relationship because she gets scratched. She doesn't have to worry about scratching herself. Um, am I benefiting? Well, some people may say yes, some people may say no. I would say I'm benefiting because I have a relationship with my dog and she makes me happy when I'm petting her. So that would be my benefit, to be happy and she's getting scratched. So at least one person has to benefit. Sometimes they both can benefit. Um, so let's look at the different types of symbiosis. We have mutualism, which is where both organisms benefit. So that little example I gave of Zoe and myself, where she gets the scratches, but I get to feel happy because I'm petting her, would be an example where we both are benefiting, so that would be mutualism. Then we have parasitism, which is the opposite side of the spectrum. Remember, in types of organisms, we talked about parasites. They weren't a good thing. They're still not a good thing. It's where one organism benefits, but then one organism is harmed. So, an example of parasitism could be a mosquito. A mosquito is an example of parasitism because it is benefiting. The mosquito is benefiting when it sucks your blood, it needs that for food. But you are being harmed because you now have a bug bite that is going to itch for the next week, right? So that would be an example of parasitism. And then there's a middle one called commensalism. So commensalism is where one organism benefits, but the other organism doesn't care. It's not affected. So an example of commensalism might be if you have ever seen like birds near cows. And I think this might be an example later, but it's the first one that popped in my head. They the cows walk through the long grass, and when they do that, the bugs kind of fly up out of the grass, and the birds are sitting there waiting for those bugs to come out of the grass because then they can have lunch. So that would be an example of commensalism. The birds are not hurting the cows, but they're not benefiting the cow either. But they're getting lunch because the bugs are being stirred up by the cows walking. Um, so that would be an example of commensalism. So mutualism, one organism benefits and the other organism benefits if we put emojis to it. I think putting emojis to it kind of helps us remember the three different types. So they're both happy. They're mutually happy. Commensalism, one organism just doesn't care. Couldn't find a don't care face there. And one organism is benefiting from it. And then parasitism, one organism is being harmed and one organism is benefiting. And remember, a parasite is not a good thing. You remember that in types of organisms. So that will kind of help you out. It's harming. So here's some examples. The ants lay eggs on an acacia tree so that they get a nice, safe place for their eggs. The acacia covers the infected area with brown flesh called a gall. The plant has to use valuable resources to create the gall. What symbiotic relationship is this? So the ants are laying eggs on the tree because it's safe, it's up high away from predators, but then the tree has to cover the infected area with gall. So what do you think this is? Is it mutualism? Are they both benefiting? Is it commensalism or is it parasitism? Oop, I clicked that too fast. Yeah, it's parasitism. Because the acacia plant is being harmed, the ants are benefiting, but the acacia plant is being harmed. How about the boxer crab and anemones? This boxer crab carries a pair of string anemones in its claws, which it uses to defend itself from predators. The anemones get to move around, which increase their food supply. So, what type of relationship is that? The boxer crab is using the anemones to defend itself, but the anemones get more food. Right, they're both benefiting, so it's mutualism. How about the shark and the remora? The remora attach itself, you can see it there, to the shark and it saves energy since it doesn't have to swim and it gets a snack on the shark's kills, but the shark doesn't get anything. The shark doesn't care that he's there hitching a ride. He doesn't get anything from it. So what relationship is that? Right, the remora is benefiting, but the shark could care less. So that is commensalism. How about the emperor shrimp and sea cucumber? This tiny emperor shrimp is riding along on the back of a sea cucumber. While it crawls along a sandy bottom, the shrimp gets to travel around the under and protect of most of its larger partner, and the sea cucumber doesn't seem to mind. So what type of relationship is that? The sea cucumber doesn't seem to mind, but the shrimp gets to protect. Right, commensalism again, because one doesn't care while the other one benefits. The moray eel and the cleaner fish. I love this one. This moray eel has a small fish cleaning between its teeth. It's like a dentist. It's like a dentist fish. The eel gets a clean mouth while the cleaner fish gets a nice meal. So, eel, clean mouth, cleaner fish gets a snack. So, what type of relationship is that? Mutualism. They're both benefiting. One's getting fed while the one has a nice clean mouth. The cattle and the cattle egrets. Oh, here we go. As the cattle walk around eating grass, they stir up a lot of insects. The egrets hang around and get a yummy meal. What type of relationship is that? Right, commensalism. And see, I thought I gave this one earlier. It was in here. Because the cattle don't care that the egrets are hanging around, but the egrets are benefiting because they're getting food. The clownfish and the anemone. Reminds me of Nemo. This clownfish swims in the anemone and gets protection since its predators will get stung, and the anemone is unaffected. So the anemone doesn't care that the clownfish is there, but the clownfish is benefiting. So what type of relationship is that? Right, commensalism. The antelope and the oxbird. This oxbird hangs out on the antelope and gets a delicious meal of bugs living on the antelope, and the antelope gets rid of parasites. So, what type of relationship is that? The oxbird gets food and the antelope gets rid of parasites. I would call that a win win. So, that is mutualism because they're both benefiting. This one's a little gross, guys. This the Lola or Lolo worm, I think is how you say it, and the human eye. This worm infects the human's eye in the bloodstream and gets a nice safe home there. The human may go blind or have other complications. What do you think this is? It's parasitism, and I'll quickly change it so you don't have to look at it anymore. Right? It's hurting the human eye, but the worm gets a nice place to live. Only one benefits there. The goby and the alphid shrimp. The alphid shrimp uses its strong, it's over here, the alphid shrimp, uses its strong claws like a bulldozer to create a burrow in the sands. The shrimp is nearly blind. It relies upon its partner, the sharp-eyed goby, to warn of danger. When a potential predator approaches, both animals disappear quickly into the burrow. So the alphid shrimp creates a burrow in the sands, and it relies upon its partner, the goby, to warn of danger. When they feel danger, they both disappear. What a nice friend. Mutualism, they're both benefiting. And I believe there's a video. If it's not in the Nearpod, I might have to find it for you guys and post it on the science classroom later in the week of the goby and alphid shrimp. It's pretty cool how the alphid shrimp burrows and the goby just hangs outside. Look for that later in the week on the science Google Classroom. I'll post it once I find it. So the walrus and the batfish. Can you see the two cleaner walruses are removing parasites from the batfish? So they're kind of there. One has entered the gill slit, you can kind of see that, and may even enter its mouth in search of food. The batfish gets a bath and the walrus gets a meal. So what type of relationship is that, where they're both benefiting? Mutualism. The hummingbird moth and the flower. The hummingbird moth is drinking the nectar of the flower gets pollinated, and the moth gets a tasty meal. So what type of relationship would that be? Great, mutualism. There's a lot of mutualistic relationships out in nature. I bet you if you look outside right now, you can find a few. See if you can think of some mutualistic relationships where they both benefit. There's quite a bit of them. So let's review. What is symbiosis? What are the three different types of symbiosis? And describe one example of each kind of symbiotic relationship. See if you can do that. After you're done answering those questions, then it's time to practice a new vocabulary using the Quizlet. Once you're done and familiar with the vocabulary for this week, go ahead and do the Nearpod. So the Nearpod will give you some examples that you might have already seen or new examples, along with a little cartoon video about symbiosis. Then later this week, you have a brain prop on symbiosis and a quizzes on symbiosis. Make sure, guys, that you're marking this as done so that way I know I can grade it. The optional activities are the brown links at the bottom of the Ecology Weebly on the Symbaloo. So if you have any more questions about symbiotic relationships, please feel free to email me. But I bet you, like I said earlier, if you look in your backyard, you can definitely find a few relationships right in your own backyard. I challenge you. Do you accept the challenge? Okay, guys, have a good week. Look for that goby fish video sometime later this week. I'll post it to the science classroom. I gotta find it, but it's pretty cool. Bye. Hope you enjoyed the lesson.